everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex. This is Big Baby Reviews. Please check out my comics, Big Baby and Starcrasher at KingComics.CA. Check out my other videos on my YouTube channel, King Comics 2021. Check out my Instagram, Maximus Rex 13, and check out my Facebook, either Max Rex or Big Baby. It is Monday. It is Jack Kirby Day, so we are looking at the next issue in his Fantastic Four run from the early 60s to up to 1969, 1970, somewhere around there. Getting ahead of myself, we were today early on in the run, so we're looking at issue number 5, featuring, the first appearance of Dr. Doom, as you can tell from the cover here, right? You'll notice a few kind of aesthetic differences with Dr. Doom. Already on the cover, he's like all green all around. Already in the comic, it's already a little bit different, so his mask is, I guess, gray to represent a more metallic texture, although you can still think that's leather, right?
Torture mask.
Well, you know what it is? It looks a lot like the old version. It's probably the 50s or early 60s, in around this time, the Man in the Iron Mask. If you ever see the movie poster for that, the mask looks a lot like it. Nick was saying also that he doesn't have any kind of gauntlets here in this shot. He does over here, but not over here. So there's some weird consistency issues, which is kind of normal with Jack Kirby. Sometimes he's working so much that he forgets some costume details or whatever. Maybe the colorist isn't helping in this case, right?
But more importantly,
are
we going to find out who the Hulk is in this issue?
Okay, yeah, from last review. Yeah, I have no idea. We'll find out as we go through. So this book, the books that he's got here, science and sorcery, demons, pretty on the nose.
Because that's Dr. Doom, right? He's magic and science, or magic and tech.
But also demonic stuff, I guess. And you'll notice too, his costume is kind of a proto version of Dr. Doom. He's got the hood, but not the cape.
Too,
Well, it's like a medieval garb is what he's got. Here a little bit, he does have that kind of hunchback kind of profile, or silhouette, I should say. I like his ship here. It's very small, but when you turn the page, you'll see. Oh, it's not here. Anyway, soon we'll see, and I'll point it out, because this ship is pretty interesting looking. So we got the Fantastic Four. You pointed this out earlier, so
the Hulk.
There you go. That's another interesting kind of bit of marketing. Fun that they were doing that. So, do you think that's Jack Kirby, right?
I think so.
Is that possible? Or is maybe this other issue that we saw before hasn't been published yet, right? But the arts come in. And then the next issue comes in and Stan Lee sees this stuff. So he's like, hey, I'm going to use that extra space at the top and bottom to promote the Hulk in the issue before that. Maybe possibly. That's how it happens.
Or did the Hulk come out at the same time as this issue?
I guess the design is out and stuff. So maybe, yeah, could have been pre-planned just from the very beginning. So we got, of course, the trope of Johnny and the Thing here,
bickering
and fighting. That's going to happen a lot throughout the run. This shot here of the Thing, he kind of reverts back to what we've kind of seen in this early iteration, but here he almost starts looking, how he's going to look later.
It's not refined yet. The later Thing is he's got pentagons all over him as the rocks.
Well, the rocks are more angular. Yeah.
The blue eyes.
And here, he always kind of looks like a glob. Right? I guess I'll describe it as a glob, but here he has a bit more angular and more defined looks. It's not fully there yet, but the brow at least is kind of going in that direction where we don't get it as much in these other shots. We'll get there one day. So yeah, the Baxter building is attacked by Dr. Doom here in his ship, and finally there it is. I don't know how he associated a shark kind of look with Dr. Doom, but I just like that ship. It's a helicopter, but yeah, I don't know. It's just such a...
Reminds me of every Spitfire World War II plane. They all have that shark as the fin, the front.
Well, and I know he used this, one of the first Kirby comics I read as a kid was Satan 6, and they go around in this weird kind of helicopter thing, flying between hell and Earth, and it kind of looks like this. It's like he kind of reused... I know Kirby reuses designs for a lot of stuff. In later iterations, there's some tropes and designs that come back in different characters, but I'm really seeing this ship as pretty much the same as Satan 6. Look it up on the internet, people. Art's still looking a little rough, and it's again still got to me that 50s vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't yet fully kind of moved into the 60s. I feel like we will over these next few issues. Here's a very classic Kirby shot that we can see.
It's a great shot.
Yeah, that kind of composition. We could see it all through you know, if it starts here or maybe even earlier, but all through the 60s, 70s, 80s, he's still using it. It's a little more refined and it's going to look more like classic Kirby that we recognize. What I don't like about this collection, or maybe we don't have the information, it's not the fault of the collection, but like to know exactly who inked these specific early issues is very hard. They name a bunch of inkers, but they don't specify which issues, right?
Issue is which.
So I don't know. This guy, the one here is definitely like, it is Jack Kirby compositions, of course, and this is probably maybe a little closer to his pencils, but this is, you know, improved upon or made a little slicker. I definitely feel as, you know, I've seen these shots with more traditional Kirby angular faces later on anyways. But look at all these, like, just the layering real quick in this simple panel here. You know, foreground and background clearly defined. He's got something going across a few of them to create that sense of depth. You know, when it comes to perspectives and drawing environments and stuff, even just in a small panel, it's like very evocative. Here, we're getting the beginnings of that Kirby tech kind of look. Very cool. What is that, a huge butt plug?
Toy, that's a plunger.
Oh, it's a cage. Yeah, I see he picked him up. Interesting. Yeah, there's still a lot of goofy elements too back then, eh? I do like this look for Dr. Doom. I feel like Tom Scioli in Godland, there's a character that the face is different, right? But he's got the hood and this kind of look here. Yeah. It's like he pretty much ripped it off from early Dr. Doom, which is cool.
All right, the Ren Fair.
Yeah, it's so this is a trope of like comics back then, and Kirby brings it back a lot in Captain Victory. He does it. They go back in time. You know, the characters go back in time. So this is, I don't know exactly which period this is, but the Fantastic Four going back to when there are pirates and stuff. And that's the rest of the storyline here. So Kirby does it, and I feel like this was also popular in around the 50s and 60s. You ever watch the old Star Trek show?
I was just gonna say that.
Right, like
they go back into time.
It's almost
or planets that like have that.
It's almost like at that time with the technology, science fiction was actually harder to do, right? Like in the 50s and 60s. So, you know, like Star Trek and stuff, they would revert back to the historical pieces because it was almost easier to have the costumes and to make it somewhat, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Believable or credible, right?
Yeah.
So it seeps into comics too. And Kirby did it a bunch. This I think is hilarious because it is kind of true that once you put, you know, facial hair on the thing and kind of cover him up a bit, he looks kind of like Billy Bob Thornton right now. If you've seen his current look, but like, you know, some sun tanned, you know, craggly faced, you know, possibly had lots of acne when he was a teenager, right? You can almost pass for human with that face. An ugly human, but it's almost Machete. What's his name there?
Danny Trejo.
Yeah, a little wider face, but that's kind of the vibe. I like this kind of, is that Frank Miller? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the weird character in 300 was a bit like misshapen. Interesting. And almost again this issue and the number, like what is this, chapter 3 or 2?
I told you early issues of Fantastic Four are weird.
Yeah, but there's so much going on. That's the thing. It's like, you know, now we're back with pirates and there's like a considerable amount of panels per page too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he's kind of doing the moved around 9-panel grid, but still. And I marvel at, like, you know, it's not superhero stuff, but the way he draws the folds and the clothes, how simply he does it, and it works really well. I strive for this kind of stuff. Folds is like in clothing when you draw is like, to me, one of the hardest things to get it to look somewhat right. And it just seems flawless here and easy. I don't know, like, just big bold lines. I wonder if he's looking at, like, he's got to be looking at reference for stuff like this, I would imagine.
Easily.
For pirates.
Back then, where are you getting that?
I guess historical books and, like, it's more paintings and stuff. You're probably looking at, like, you know, 18th century paintings of boats and stuff.
That's kind of cool shot there.
That is pretty cool, pretty effective.
Yeah.
So it's the torch kind of boiling the water there.
Yeah. And
yeah.
So silhouette of the ship.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's very like a. Sometimes when you got to find solutions, you're like, hey, I want to make it look like the water's boiling, and we see the ship shadow through the steam, right? Like, and you're like, okay, how the hell am I going to do that? And like, that's
How are you gonna draw this?
yeah, like I don't know if that's the first time he's done it. At some point, he had to figure that out. I had a bunch of scenes in my comic. I didn't do this on purpose, but where the character breaks through a window. So by the third time I drew a character jump through a window, the glass and stuff and the pieces, it was starting to look pretty good. So once you're challenged by it once, you tend to get better at it pretty fast because you've had to draw it.
Yeah.
So this is the what I was talking about with some of the interesting foreshortening with Mr. Fantastic. This is pretty hilarious to me. They stretches all the way to the other ship here, and also again just like woohoo! I don't have to like draw the complicated foreshortening. Just 2 lines straight to that boat. Like it just feels like fun to draw this panel and move on quickly. That's a great shot though. I like the foreshortening. The anatomy is really nice. Still wearing longer shorts. Kind of weird to indicate that when he's all on fire. But no, like it's a weird choice. I know there was a whole thing back then, like with like the Silver Surfer is a good example. Eventually, when we get to that, we'll talk about it. But like that they would hint at, or kind of like it's not super obvious, but kind of the Silver Surfer's wearing like silver underwear. It's kind of odd. Yeah, so listen, personally, I'm not super into like pirate stories or anything. The art's cool, but like, the Fantastic Four in this kind of setting, I think we're going to see less and less of, and more of them going to like alien worlds and that sci-fi vibe and different dimensions, right? That's where it's kind of, we're like you said, the early stuff is goofy, but we're going to get less and less of that goofiness. Mm-hmm. I like that shot of Dr. Doom here. That costume is pretty cool.
It's Igor.
It does, like, it gives off a vibe of like not the main guy, like like assistant to the main guy. That might be why they changed it. Like, the what he ends up having, kind of like a tunic and a cape and stuff, makes it look more majestic, obviously, right? This is an interesting kind of choice also visually, like how our characters go from back in time back to Dr. Doom's lair. Like that's kind of a pre-psychedelic kind of trippy way to do it. It's pretty interesting. It works. Like we understand what's happening. I think I get it.
Say, not like a boom tube there, but
well, kind of a
you see it in the Ant-Man Quantumania film there, where it's just the blue like light, the portal opens,
and it just exactly.
And that's what I think he's trying to convey here.
This is a boom cube.
A boom cube.
That's right. But it's almost
Jack Kirby.
Again, his first attempt at this kind of concept, and eventually maybe that's how he comes up with the boom tubes, right? He is still kind of using a lot of those, I forget what you call them, speed lines or directional lines, action lines.
Speed lines everywhere.
Is he smiling like through the mask? It's kind of what he's implying. He's like, that's like it's cool, but like it's hard to imagine the Doom mask being so
it's Igor.
malleable.
He's Igor. Dr. Frankenstein is waiting.
And the balls to just look. He didn't draw the rest of the body here.
I know.
It's just the head.
What's that all about?
But it works, right? Like it's kind of cool.
That kind of reminds me of something that in later comics and later years there, where the artists would just draw the head.
Sure.
Right, and then with the dialogue balloon.
Yeah. But just an interesting choice. I think it works well. Seeing more and more interesting choices from Kirby slowly but surely over these issues specifically, and pretty much all throughout the whole run, you see him refining it.
Disappointed we don't see any Hulk.
Again, a few more issues before we get there. And this was a funny sequence I just wanted to mention before we finish off, just because, again, another kind of funny foreshortening of Mr. Fantastic. This one here is hilarious. Like, no one has a flatter ass than Mr. Fantastic. So yeah, again, a cool shot of Doom's castle. Wow, like that's very illustrative. It's well done. Yeah, it's got that horror vibe, Dracula, whatever, but it works. And then here I was like, almost like it's starting to look like a goblin or like a hobgoblin or green goblin almost. And he's going to fly away here. I don't know. I kind of got that vibe. And then conveniently, I love how he just says it, like exposition. Even your miraculous flame cannot match the thrust of my rocket's torch. He's right. I'm growing weak. Too much strain. Can't go on. Flame dying. So that's pretty dangerous if you can just get tired in midair and like your flame goes out. You can't fly anymore. And then you just plunge to your death. Is that what, got to keep enough flame to break my fall. Got to. And then like he just caught the tree before slamming into the ground. It's a little hokey, but still fun. It gets a little less hokey as it moves along the series. So yeah,
maybe Jack gets more editorial control of the Fantastic Four.
Well, there is, yeah. Eventually,
maybe he's probably only he's less hands-on here in terms of editorial aspects.
Yeah, and again with like early 1960s, maybe there's still again that kind of, even in TV and movies, that little more kitsch kind of goofy kind of aspect to things that seems to be in all forms of entertainment. And maybe, you know, we're still pre Kennedy getting assassinated here, so I do feel that culturally there's pre and post Kennedy assassination. So I think there's a correlation. We'll see as we get there, because I'll try to pinpoint which issue is in around the assassination. If there is, you know, even though they didn't know it at the time, maybe it's subconscious, an effect where, like, you know, society changes a little bit and maybe things are a little more serious, right? Like, people have talked about that before, how America lost their innocence after the Kennedy assassination. Mm. So maybe there's kind of a manifestation of that in the comic. Maybe I'm pushing, but we'll find out soon enough when we get there. And there you go, guys. That is the end of today's review. So if you're subscribed and you're still watching videos, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed but you're watching, please subscribe below. It only takes a second for you. Really helps out the channel, helps us grow, helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books. So thank you so much for watching, and
stay frosty.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.